Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons again, but we're going to talk about the media empire that Wizards of the Coast is trying to build with Dungeons and Dragons, which would explain probably why they're going crazy with One D&D and the OGL 1.1, because they're trying to maintain as much control over D&D as possible and possibly strip mine other people's creations.
That's what I was wondering. When they said they were getting a TV show, my first thought was they were shopping this TV show around. Then there was interest, and all of a sudden these new rules drop, and I was like, "Is this to take content that they might want to use as fodder for the TV show from other people who invented it?"
I don't know, because they're probably looking at the situation with Critical Role, which raised like 12 or $14 million on Kickstarter for their animated series. It's on Amazon now. They're selling action figures and merchandise and stuff like that. And they're like, that should be ours. Right. Even though Matt Mercer and company made all those characters up, that should be ours because they're using our system. And we know that the new president of Wizards of the Coast is all about making money wherever she can make it.
That's why they had to have hired her. That's probably why they sent her in, was to, fix the under monetization.
Yeah, because they want to turn D&D into video game. I mean, she came from Microsoft. She came from Xbox. The guy who took over for Brian Goldner died. He was the CEO of Hasbro for years. He had cancer. Nobody knew. He just said, yeah, I'm taking a break. And then he passed away. I think he was like 55 or something. But then the next person in command is, I think, Chris Cox, who came from Microsoft. And now he's bringing all his video game buddies in, including the president of Wizard. And she's all about the microtransactions. She's all about the monetization. And players aren't going to have it, but this is what it's about, guys. It's about creating D&D the IP, which is going to be really interesting if, like, the Tolkien estate's like, hey, D&D was basically just an unauthorized Tolkien game, right? Like, that's how it got started, right? So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 285,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We have been talking a lot about D&D lately because there is a lot of news about D&D. And there's some sad news. I want to get this out of the way before we get into it. The voice actor of Presto from the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, Adam Rich, sadly passed away a few days ago. And I think he was only like 56. He wasn't very old.
I don't know. Yeah, he was in the 50s. I knew that.
People were speculating on the reasons. I can say
we don't know.
We don't know. And beyond that, he did have a history, I guess, of depression and mental illness. But he did voice Presto on the D&D cartoon, which is what got me into D&D. I love the cartoon. It was great.
I remember the cartoon,
and,
yes.
Well, it's a real shame. It was just all white dudes in that cartoon, too.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure they're going to change that.
But, so I don't know if the live action series is going to be based on that, but it might be based on your campaign.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's what stuck out to me when you see that they started shopping this around. E1 started shopping it around in like November of last year, and then they got interest. Paramount, of course, who's doing the film, and Paramount Plus is going to make a show, and then right after that got kind of wrapped up. Then these new rules and stuff started dropping that they pretty much own everything ever that has D&D on it.
It's the timing is weird. Now it could be that I think her name's Cynthia Williams. She came in and she had a game plan, like, no pun intended. This is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna make money off of
dungeon mastering this shit.
I'm gonna dungeon master, like the evil DM. I'm gonna come in and make as much money out of this as I possibly can, and we're gonna monetize the players, and we're gonna lock down the fandom, and then we're gonna just pump out as much IP as we can. If we lift a couple ideas here and there, it's okay. They're making stuff for our game anyway. We can just take it. We can just take it from the fans because they agreed to it, right? They're making fan fiction and fan art and fan campaigns. We can just take it. And if you read the language of the OGL, which has leaked, and see my video yesterday, they basically said if you are making stuff for their game, they can take it. If you've signed the agreement, if you sign the license and you're making third-party stuff, if they want it, they can take it.
Yeah, so if they need fodder for a TV show and maybe yours is really popular, well,
I think
possibly could happen.
I think this might be a result of Critical Role. I really do.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
They're probably thinking to themselves, like, if we had locked them into a different agreement a couple of years ago, this would be a live-action version of their stuff, which has already been proven online, but Amazon got it first. So now it's going to Paramount with the people who worked on Halo, by the way. So that's going to go very,
I
very
know.
well.
Let's see what they do to this since they messed up Halo.
All right, so this is exclusive. Paramount Plus is given an 8-episode straight to video order to an adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons. What are you going to adapt exactly? Red Notice filmmaker wrote the pilot script. It's set to direct the first episode of the series, which is going to be a co-production between E1 and Paramount. Lead studio took the project out in November. That's about when they got their new president, garnering interest from multiple buyers. Well, I think if it were me, I would wait to see how the movie did, because I don't think the movie is going to do that well.
I don't know.
It doesn't look that good. It really doesn't look that good. So they're talking about that, and I thought, well, maybe this will be a spin-off of the movie, but I think they're just going to do something else. At Paramount Plus, D&D will join Halo in desecrating the fandoms. Oh, no, the video game adaptation, which is one of the streamers' most popular originals.
Okay, well, that's sad, because you kind of effed it all up.
Yeah, so they've been trying to adapt Dungeons and Dragons for television for a long time. They had the animated series, which is still very, very popular. To this day, they're actually strip mining that now, too. The IDW is doing new comics. Hasbro's releasing action figures based on those characters, you know? But, yeah, I have to wonder. I'm with you. I'm like, is this why they're changing? Part of why they're changing the rules for television adaptations, that if you come up with a homebrew character, fan character, something from a crowdfunded campaign, they can just be like, yeah, we really think that character would be great when it's played by Jim Carrey or something.
I just think it's weird because, you know, if they were just interested in money and just interested in like a percentage, they would just take a percentage from sales. But they're taking all the stuff that you've created.
Yeah. Yeah, if we get into this document and you read the fine print, which I read yesterday, you agree that nothing prohibits us from developing, distributing, selling, or promoting something that is substantially similar to your work, licensed work, that if you sign this agreement. You own the new and original content you create. You agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose.
So basically we can use it and not give you any money.
We could theoretically shop around a TV show based on something you created under this license, and even though you technically own it, if I'm reading this correctly, we don't have to give you any royalties. We can basically just take it. I mean, that's the way it reads to me. Now, they might clarify that language a little bit. It says that you own the new and original content, but we have a right to use it for any purpose, no royalties.
It's non-exclusive, which
non-exclusive. Is good. But, I mean, it sounds to me like they could be partly using the OGL 1.1 to subsidize the creation of new video game content, new movie content, new TV show content. And I'm sure, I mean, I don't think that'll hold up in court like, oh yeah, I made a character and to get whatever, and now they're just going to take that character and they own it. Because they said you own the content, but it does sound like you're not going to have a choice. Like if you created content for D&D module that you kickstarted through their license, that they can just be like, we're shopping it around.
Here's what they're going to do. What they'll do is, based on the letter A, is you agree that nothing prohibits us from developing, distributing, selling, or promoting something that is substantially similar. So what they'll do is, oh, this story is cool, this character is cool, we'll make something very, very similar and say, oh, well, you know, it's similar, but we can use it.
So let me tell you a little story about our adventures in Hollywood.
I know where you're going with this.
Yes.
First thing that popped into my head, too.
We signed an agreement like this years ago when we were younger and more naive. I mean, we're not that old and we're still pretty naive about some things, but we were pretty naive because we're like, oh my God, Hollywood. So yeah, a couple of our comic ideas, they wanted to option. Certain company uses mouse ears, might have wanted to option. And, you know, some of these shows, so we signed agreements that basically said, you take the money for the option. We get to squat on your work for so many years. You know, we may or may not greenlight it. We don't know, but, you know, we're going to give you money. So shut up. And part of that agreement was we may come up with something similar, but that is purely a coincidence.
And you agree to that.
You agree to that. And that's in the fine print. We're like, well, you know, what are the odds of that happening? It's like, well, yeah, if you know anything about Disney, the odds are pretty damn good that they just happen to borrow. Did I say them out loud? I should have said.
Disney had already greenlit a show, and there was already in the trades a synopsis of the show, the name of the show, everything else. They did not take our stuff. They actually let us have it back. But when the show came out, the name changed to something very, very, very similar to what ours was. And there were some changes to it that were kind of similar to...
Yeah, it was a live action show. And it was a couple of years after we optioned. It was a live action show. They did a name change on it. And yes, the original synopsis when the show was purchased, I don't even think mentioned robots or anything like that in it. And then when the show debuted, it's like, oh, hey, wait a minute. This looks...
Well, I know the name got changed. It sounds very similar to ours.
But we waived any right to sue them because they were like, well, it's just a pure coincidence. Now, one of the complaints, as I understand
I thought that was coincidence, except they had greenlit the show before our pitch. And they changed the name after they got our stuff.
Yes.
And there was already a synopsis and a name put in the trades.
Yes. And the synopsis was nothing like the show.
It was similar, but there was changes.
There were changes, and the name was changed. So then what got me too was, there were some comments back and forth, when we were talking about the one show, and it's basically animation is expensive. It's expensive, and Disney kind of after Gravity Falls didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, they did Amphibia and they did Owl House, but I think the reason that those shows, at least the Owl House, I think got canceled was because of the expense, and they weren't really looking to do like action shows at that point. But I think it was like, well, let's kind of take some of these ideas and let's kind of put them in live action because that's cheaper. And then these are just a couple of bumpkins. They're not from LA. Let's just whatever. We gave them some money, pat on the way you go. And that is, again, speculation, what we think actually happened. And there was a change at the top at the company at that point. There's a lot of chaos over there. But yeah, it basically means that they could come up with, Critical Role is popular. Cool. Let's do 1-to-1 copies of the Critical Role cast, but they're going to be official D&D characters now. And oh, by the way, guys, you're going to have to shut your campaign down because they're too close to official D&D. There are a lot of things that can go wrong with this. I think it's a cheap way for wizards to cultivate ideas without having to come up with the ideas themselves and without having to properly pay people for those ideas. And if that is what happens, God help them. God help the creators. Because I think there really is this just opens up the floodgates. And if you sign that agreement with them, that OGL, you're basically just giving them carte blanche.
And I wonder how much in lawsuits we're going to have.
I don't know. I don't know, guys. But there we go. Pretty interesting stuff. That might be what really kicked this off. We're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.